Live from New Delhi, you're watching India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlights the government's efforts to promote artificial intelligence and programs for aspirational India. Also slams the opposition over foreign policy. India's national capital is all set for polls on Wednesday. Over 15.5 million electorates set to elect a new 70-member assembly in Delhi. Italian authority blocks DeepSeek after Chinese startup fails to address concerns over privacy policy. Tit for tat between US and China. Beijing slaps a 10% tariff on US coal and crude oil. Also launches antitrust probe into Google. The Congo Rebel Alliance, which includes the Rwandan-backed M23, has declared a ceasefire for humanitarian reasons. They say that they have no intention of capturing Bukavu. The lower house of India's parliament witnessed intense debate on the motion of thanks to the president's address. Leaders across party lines participated in the debate, and Prime Minister Modi's reply then took centre stage. Prime Minister outlined his government's achievements over the past decade, and he laid out a clear roadmap for the future driven by cutting-edge technology. Here are some of the key moments of the Prime Minister's speech compiled by our correspondent, Debyendu Mandal.
After more than 12 hours of intense debate, the Prime Minister took the floor in the Lok Sabha to reply to the motion of thanks to the President's address. The President's speech, the Prime Minister said, has provided a clear direction for a Vikasit Bharat, which means a developed India, and highlighted the vision for the country's future.
इस राष्ट्रपति जी के संबोधन में अगर हम बारीकी इसको अध्ययन करेंगे तो ये साफ नजर आता है कि उन्होंने देश के सामने भविष्य के 25 वर्ष और विकसित भारत के लिए एक नया विश्वास जगाने वाली बात।
In his detailed address, the Prime Minister pointed to his government's achievements over the past 10 years, particularly in areas like infrastructure development, healthcare and social welfare. He also focused on emerging technologies, emphasizing initiatives such as India's AI mission, new tech development and deep tech industries that are poised to shape the future of the country.
भारत वो देश है जिसके इंडिया एआई मिशन को लेकर के पूरी दुनिया बहुत आशावादी है और विश्व के एआई प्लेटफॉर्म में भारत की मौजूदगी एक महत्वपूर्ण स्थान प्राप्त कर चुकी है.
In a sharp attack on the opposition, the Prime Minister accused the rival parties of failing to give adequate representation and respect to marginalized communities. He asserted that his government, under BJP's leadership, has given special focus to the welfare of tribals, OBCs and SCs, ensuring that these communities are uplifted and respected.
हर सेक्टर में एससी, एसटी, ओबीसी को ज्यादा से ज्यादा अवसर मिले, उस दिशा में हमने बहुत मजबूती के साथ काम किया है.
The Prime Minister also underscored his government's commitment to the Constitution, reaffirming that the BJP's actions and policies have always been in line with constitutional principles. He accused the opposition of undermining constitutional respect in their rhetoric.
ये हमारा संविधान जीने का स्वभाव था, ये हमारा संविधान का स्पिरिट था, ये हमारी लोकतंत्र की मर्यादाओं का पालन करने का इरादा था हमने तय किया कि भले मान्य विपक्ष नहीं होगा, रिकॉग्नाइज्ड अपोजिशन नहीं होगा, लेकिन जो सबसे बड़े दल का सब नेता है उसको मीटिंगों में बुलाएंगे।
As the budget session moves forward, with both the houses adjourned late Tuesday evening, all eyes will now be on the Rajya Sabha, where the Prime Minister is set to respond on Thursday. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
A ceasefire in eastern Congo brings hope, but the scars of war linger for thousands. Months of brutal fighting have devastated cities and torn families apart. With Goma under Rwanda-backed rebels, the Democratic Republic of Congo is calling for an emergency UN Human Rights Council session on February the 7th, urging global action against the region's atrocities.
The alliance of rebel groups in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have declared a humanitarian ceasefire starting on Tuesday. In a statement, the group, which includes the Rwanda-backed M23 rebels, cited humanitarian reasons for the ceasefire after it has been capturing territory in eastern parts of the country. Goma, the city in the heart of this conflict zone, is reeling from the loss of life. Morgues are overflowing and the city's hospitals are struggling to keep up with the surge in casualties. Red Cross workers and civil protection teams buried as many as 120 decomposing bodies in Goma on Monday. The conflict has displaced around 500,000 people. Many displaced families are now dismantling their makeshift shelters in refugee camps and preparing to return to their villages despite ongoing security concerns.
This fighting reminds me of how we fled Kichanga after fighting broke out there, but it has now again followed me to Goma. My family and I decided to flee again to Rwanda, but I now want to return to move to the distant place, like a city.
However, thousands of displaced people in eastern Congo still fear further attacks and sexual violence if they return home after recent fighting, despite encouragement from occupying rebels.
Yes, this really happened. Many among us have been raped. They enter houses and rape mothers and daughters. If they find them together in the house, they rape them all together in their tent. They loot and rape women and girls. That's why we fled.
My concern is peace, because if we return home to Zulu, those who took our land are still there and continue to kill people and spread terror. We fled because they kill our people, and we only return when there is peace and tranquility. Not today.
Congo government spokesperson has stressed that the international community must take concrete action and impose sanctions on Rwanda in order to curb the M23 rebel conflict.
The world or the international community cannot not react on what Rwanda is doing in the eastern part of the DRC. They've been killing a peacekeeper from United Nations.
The UN Human Rights Council on Tuesday said that it would hold an urgent session on the situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo to focus on the human rights situation. As Eastern Congo grapples with the aftermath of conflict and the fragility of a new ceasefire, the call for peace is not just a political plea, it's a humanitarian imperative. Bureau Report, DD India.
A tariff war has erupted between the United States and China, with Beijing restricting exports of 5 metals and imposing a 10% tariff on U.S. coal and crude oil. China also launched an anti-monopoly probe against Google. The move comes after the U.S. imposed a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods. Meanwhile, the U.S., Mexico and Canada have tightened border measures. Let's look at this report.
A tit-for-tat tariff war has begun between US and China. Beijing would restrict exports of 5 metals used in defense, clean energy and other industries in retaliation to fresh US tariffs. China also slapped 10% tariff on US coal and crude oil. but it fell short of imposing outright export bans that it had previously used. The tariffs are expected to come into effect on 10th February. The country has also opened a probe against American tech giant Google over suspicion that it violated domestic anti-monopoly laws. Experts believe that China, for now, is only firing warning shots, leaving room for negotiation. The decisions came shortly after US President Donald Trump imposed 10% tariff on all Chinese goods. However, US and its neighbors averted a trade war. This after Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau agreed to tighten border measures against the flow of migrants and the drug fentanyl into the United States. Mexico has agreed to send 10,000 troops to the US-Mexico frontier.
We reached an agreement. It is in the agreement we published to place more National Guard in the northern border in order to protect the border and prevent drug trafficking, especially fentanyl trafficking from Mexico to the US.
Canada too has agreed to deploy nearly 10,000 officers at border, list drug cartels as terrorists, appoint a fentanyl czar and crack down on money laundering. Canada, China and Mexico are the US's biggest trading partners. The markets may have heaved a little relief on account of easing of tensions in the Americas, but the China conundrum can still unnerve the traders. Trump's action have left markets and traders on the edge for the 48 hours, and now China's countermeasures have the capability to further rile the nervous markets. Bureau Report, DD India.
The European Union Commissioner, the President of the EU, that is, Ursula von der Leyen, she has said that that the European Union is going to be ready for tough negotiations with the United States to protect its own interests against the threat of heightened trade tariffs. Her speech to ambassadors in Brussels took place as the EU trade ministers met in Warsaw.
We will be ready for tough negotiations where needed and to find solutions where possible, to work out any grievances and to set the foundations for a stronger partnership. We will be open and pragmatic in how to achieve that. But we will make it equally clear that we will always protect our own interests, however and whenever that is needed.
On the immigration front, U.S. Secretary, the U.S. security forces, they stand guard near the Mexico border as the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visits the city. Hegseth was joined by the White House border czar Tom Homan, and both officials met with troops charged with the objective of achieving operational control of the border. The Pentagon's chief, the first trip of his to the southern border comes as Trump declared a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act on Saturday, citing the extraordinary threat from fentanyl and illegal immigration. On its part, Mexico has agreed to reinforce its northern border with 10,000 National Guard members to stem the flow of illegal migration and drugs.
Because of President Trump's deft ability to negotiate, we now have 10,000 Mexican troops that are going to be patrolling on the other side of the border, so there's cooperation with Mexico as well. Over time, when we're able to build the border wall as well as the president has said he will do and will do, operational control looks different than just constant manpower, but this is the phase that we're in right now.
Still to come here on DD India NewsHour. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio says that El Salvador has agreed to accept deportees of any nationality. Trump says he wanted to reach an agreement with Ukraine to gain access to the country's rare earth materials. Sri Lanka marks 77 years of independence with a military parade. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. supply creates its own demand between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has reached a migration deal with El Salvador, agreeing to accept migrants of any nationality who are deported from the United States and keep them in its jails. There is virtually no precedent in contemporary times for a democratic country to send its own citizens to foreign jails. But Rubio said President Bukele, who has launched a sweeping crackdown on crime that has won him popularity at home, offered to do just that in their meeting earlier in the day. Rubio spelled out the 3 decisions taken during the meeting.
It's of all of you to see the transformation of a society and of a nation that not too long ago faced great insecurity. But we've seen the transformation under the leadership of this administration here and President Bukele.
The U.S. President Donald Trump wants access to Ukraine's rare earth materials in exchange for continued U.S. support against Russia. The Kremlin responded that the White House now wants Kiev to pay for assistance and suggested it would have been better not to aid Ukraine in the first place, potentially ending the conflict. Raghav Kumar Jha has this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday said he wants to negotiate an agreement with Ukraine in which Kiev guarantees supplies of rare earth elements are used as components in high-technology electronic devices. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump complained that the U.S. had sent more in military and economic assistance to Ukraine than its European partners, adding that now he is looking to do a deal with Ukraine. Trump also suggested that he has received word from Ukrainian government that they'd be willing to make a deal to give the U.S. access to the elements critical to the modern high-tech economy.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
Ukrainian President Zelensky had floated such an idea last October as part of his victory plan for ending the war with Russia. Outlining his plans, Zelensky had said he would urge Kiev's Western partners to secure a special agreement on joint protection of critical resources available in Ukraine and joint investment and use of the corresponding economic potential. Rare earths are a group of 17 metals used to make magnets that turn power into motion for electric vehicles, cell phones, and other electronics. Ukraine holds deposits of more than 20 critical rare earth minerals. It holds the largest titanium reserves in Europe, 7% of the world's reserves. Ukraine boasts confirmed deposits of beryllium, which is crucial for nuclear power, aerospace, military, acoustic and electronic industries, as well as uranium. Ukraine's diverse geological zones make it a top 10 global supplier of mineral resources. Holding around 5% of the world's total, the US has only one operating rare earths mine and very little processing capacity, although several companies are working to develop projects in the country. Reacting to Trump's statement, the Kremlin said, now White House wants Kiev to pay for US assistance rather than receive it for free.
It is a proposal to buy aid, meaning not to continue to provide it free of charge or otherwise, but to provide it on a commercial basis. It is better, of course, not to provide aid at all, thus contributing to the end of this conflict.
US military aid to Ukraine was briefly paused in recent days before resuming over the weekend as the Trump administration deliberated its policy towards Kiev. Trump, who had previously said he'd bring about a rapid end to the war, said talks are ongoing to bring the conflict to a close. Raghav Kumar Jha reports for DD India.
Sri Lanka is celebrating its 77th National Day today. That's Tuesday. The official celebrations were held at Independence Square in Colombo, featuring a military parade and cultural performances and a special address by the President Anura Kumara Dissanayake.
Sri Lanka celebrated completion of 77 years of its existence as a free nation on Tuesday. The island nation got independence from Britain in 1948, months after India secured freedom. The venue for celebrations changed to Independence Square this year as against the Galle Face, which has been the location for the parade in past years. The government of the debt-stricken nation had decided to keep the expenses for the celebration at a minimum by reducing the amount spent as compared to previous years. Last year, nearly 200 million Sri Lankan rupees were spent on the celebrations, in contrast to 87 million rupees being spent this year. Cultural performances and the parade were the hallmark of the celebrations, while most noticeable was deployment of lesser number of helicopters and personnel. In his special address, President Anura Kumara Dissanayake urged the nation to focus on building a brighter future rather than looking back at past challenges. He emphasized the collective hope and expectation shared by all Sri Lankans to unite in the quest for a modern progressive nation. While the people faced crisis over the past few years, the president pledged to heal Sri Lanka's economic woes by the end of his 5-year term. The program ended with the singing of the national anthem in Tamil. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar conveyed his greetings on the 77th Independence Day to his counterpart Vijitha Herath and all people of Sri Lanka on a social media post, and said that he is committed to advancing the multifaceted partnership benefiting people of both nations.
As the island nation of Sri Lanka marks its 77th Independence Day today, there is renewed talk of unity, with President Dissanayake calling on all Sri Lankans to work together towards national recovery and development. Having faced severe economic and political crises in the recent years, people have reposed fresh hope for stability and progress in the new government. While challenges remain, the new government appears to be making efforts, as has been seen in cutting expenses while celebrating the Independence Day as well. For DD India, Ahmed Moin Faruqi from Colombo.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the US President Donald Trump will discuss the future of the Gaza ceasefire on Tuesday. The visit is a first by a foreign leader to the White House since the US President's return to power. Netanyahu on Tuesday said that Israel will send a delegation to Doha this week for talks on the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal. However, Trump has expressed caution, stating there are no guarantees that the ceasefire will hold. Delhi votes on Wednesday in a single phase. The results will be announced on February 8. The Union Territory is set for a high-stakes triangular contest to its 70-seat assembly. A total of 15.6 million voters are registered to vote, and the Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements for people to vote in large numbers. DD India correspondent Anil Thomas reports.
The high-octane Delhi Assembly elections will see the fate of 699 candidates sealed as the national capital votes in a single phase on Wednesday. The voting for the 70 assembly seats in Delhi will see about 1.56 crore voters cast their ballots across 13,766 polling stations. Among them, 83.76 lakh are men, 72.36 lakh women, while 1,267 are third-gender voters. The Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements with additional 21,584 ballot units, 20,692 control units, and 18,943 VVPATs.
Coming from airport tomorrow, we are keeping about 4 to 5 counters, help desk or counters you can say, who will welcome those people and who will guide those people to their polling station. For visually impaired people, we have designed special polling station for them, where we are keeping murals which will be in tactile form. We are keeping welcome walls, feel the democracy walls. Even we are going to give them some keepsakes which will be in tactile form.
Delhi police has deployed 220 paramilitary companies, 19,000 home guards and 35,626 Delhi police personnel to ensure free and fair elections. They have also taken variety of security measures, including CCTV, AI-enabled cameras and drones.
स्टेशंस पे हमारा पूरा डिप्लॉयमेंट रहेगा, काउंटिंग स्टेशन पे पूरा डिप्लॉयमेंट है, ट्रैफिक को भी वहाँ से हम रेगुलेट कर रहे हैं, काउंटिंग सेंटर से ईवीएम जाने हैं आने, तो सब प्रकार से हमारा डिप्लॉयमेंट भी है, ब्रीफिंग्स भी हो चुकी हैं और हम पूरी तरह से तैयार हैं.
The poll panel has prohibited the release of exit polls till 6:30 p.m. on Feb 5th, the day of voting. A total of 7,552 electors have opted for home voting facility available for elderly voters and persons with disabilities.
We had put up this proposal that kindly keep elections, midway between the week, not Saturday, Sunday. So maybe that might be reason that we might see some increase in the voter percentage. And due to these innovative ideas, we are incorporating this time.
The two keenly watched election battles will be on the New Delhi and Kalkaji seat. The results for Delhi elections will be announced on February 8th.
Delhi decides as 1.56 crore voters will decide the fate of the three main political parties. AAP looking for a hat-trick of wins, BJP looking to turn the cards, and Congress going solo, ditching its 2024 Lok Sabha election partner. The Election Commission leaving no stone unturned in making this election free and fair. With camera person Aniket Dubey, Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
Addressing the India International Centre Bruegel annual seminar in Delhi, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar underscored the importance of the EU-India relationship and said that terrorism has been overlooked when convenient. Our next report has the details.
Dr. S. Jaishankar on Tuesday highlighted the inconsistent application of global political principles, particularly regarding democracy and military rule. He pointed out that different standards were being applied to India's neighbours in East and West.
Even on a question like democracy and military rule, different standards have been applied to our neighbours in the East and our neighbour in the West.
He also highlighted that terrorism has been overlooked when convenient.
We, in India, have yet to see aggression on our territory vacated after so many decades. Equally, terrorism has been overlooked when convenient. In our own continent, international law has been disregarded with significant consequences.
Amid growing volatility and uncertainty, he underscored the increasing significance of India's relationship with the European Union.
We clearly have common interests and shared values. There may be some differences on priorities and specifics, but what binds us is a sentiment much stronger. At the end of the day, we are political democracies, pluralistic societies, and market economies. As we each take stock of the changes underway, it is likely that our meeting points will increase. Moreover, in a world that promises to be so volatile and so uncertain, a stronger India-EU relationship can be an important stabilizing factor.
Echoing this sentiment, the ambassador of the European Union to India, Hervé Duffin, expressed optimism that 2025 would witness this shared vision materializing into concrete initiatives, further strengthening the India-EU ties. The EU is currently India's largest trading partner, while India ranks as EU's 9th largest trading partner in terms of bilateral trade and goods. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Union budget for 2025-26 has kept the fiscal consolidation roadmap intact and the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It requires the government to set annual targets for fiscal discipline. Now, this budget has a number of indicators that reflect strong fundamentals. Let's look at this report.
The Indian government has cut its fiscal deficit target for financial year 2025-2026 to 4.4% of the GDP. The earlier estimate was 4.8%. Fiscal deficit is the difference between the government's revenue and expenditure. The deficit is bridged by government borrowings, including from the bond market. The government's aim is to keep the fiscal deficit within reasonable limits. A lower fiscal deficit helps boost foreign investment. The budget has set a nominal GDP growth target of 10.1% for financial year 2026, above the 9.7% achieved in the previous fiscal.
It is clearly a consumption-led growth story because of the tax savings that leads to savings in the hands of the middle class. Ably supported by the infrastructure spending by the government as well as the private sector. And if in the near future RBI takes a decision to cut down on interest rates, it will further increase the savings in the hands of the masses.
The budget also introduced key changes to the liberalized remittance scheme. The threshold on tax collected at source on remittances has been raised to Rs 10 lakh from 7 lakh. The move will impact those sending money abroad for education and other expenses. TCS paid can be claimed later as a tax credit. When it comes to foreign direct investment, the major highlight was that the government has hiked FDI limit in insurance to 100%. The government's move to increase capex allocation to Rs 11.21 lakh crore has also come in for praise from stakeholders. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now still to come here on DD India NewsHour, we'll get you expert opinion on Prime Minister Modi's reply to the debate on the motion of thanks to the President's address. And a female cheetah, Veera, gives birth to 2 cubs at Madhya Pradesh's Kuno National Park.
This week on Defence Dynamics, India strengthens its firepower. A 10,200 crore boost for Pinaka rockets. What does it mean for battlefield supremacy? From battlefields of Kargil to modern warfare. How India's Grad and Smirch rocket systems pack a punch. China builds a secret war command center 10 times the size of Pentagon. What's the Beijing's endgame? And Pakistan's internal crisis deepens. Political chaos, economic meltdown, and rising insurgency. How does it impact the regional security? Catch it all this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn, and we are joined by Praful Ketkar, senior journalist and editor of Organizer, who's going to talk to us about the Prime Minister's reply to the motion of thanks to the President's address in the Lok Sabha. Thank you, Mr. Ketkar. Now, Prime Minister was, his speech was full of wit and sarcasm, political sarcasm. So, he said that some people feel that they are not mature enough unless they talk about foreign policy. And he talked about the reference to a book called JFK's Forgotten Crisis. Now, this deals with India's complacency in the 1962 war and also addressing the growing military threat from China. What exactly was the Prime Minister conveying?
Good evening, Mark.
Yeah.
This was an address on motion of thanks. That is the actually presidential address to the joint sitting of India's Parliament, and while doing so, President generally presents the complete picture of government's program for the year, and that's why this address is considered as very important. Now, while generally discussion takes place on the address, and yesterday the main opposition leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, passed a remark. He was in an attacking mode, and while making all other allegations, he also said that India's land has been acquired by a neighbor, and armed forces and prime minister are contradicting each other, which was of course immediately countered by the parliamentary affairs minister. Okay. But the point is, today while dealing with all those issues, prime minister gave a very befitting reply with political acumen.
Yes.
When on the one hand he actually enlisted the achievements of his government for last 10 years, but at the same time he sarcastically mentioned, as you rightly said, that the actual whatever land that intrusion and external invasion that have taken place, that was during the first prime minister Mr. Pandit Nehru's time.
Okay.
And while referring to it, he said, you first please understand the historical facts, and if you don't know, please go through this book. And because this particular book talks about the way India handled foreign policy, the way India was offered United Nations permanent seat in the Security Council, the way last moment earlier President Kennedy was offering help in terms of Air Force cover to India. And then in the later half, Mr. Nehru was actually requesting to, giving a call to the US to help in fighting against the China. So all these developments are so without directly mentioning and getting into the rhetorics about the India-China relationship, because presently it is at a very critical stage. We are in, after a long time, we are again on a talking terms. We have agreed to certain steps which are confidence building measures. So Prime Minister didn't want to make a direct reference, but because again and again, Mr. Rahul Gandhi is making a reference on two counts, that the way China has progressed and what we are doing. And secondly, on foreign policy and strategic options issues, he's trying to corner the government. And that's why Prime Minister categorically made those remarks.
So moving on to another point that the Prime Minister raised, he talked about the salaried class now will pay no income tax until they reach, there's a threshold of 12.75 lakh rupees. So this is a magnitude, the magnitude of this relief for the middle class, is not lost. I mean, it's something that people need to understand. Earlier it was 2 lakhs is what the Prime Minister talking about. Now we are talking about 12.75 lakhs. And this was, I mean, it's going to put a lot of money in the hands of the middle class. Yes.
Oh yes, it is a purely, a classic consumption-oriented growth that is on which this government is banking on. What Prime Minister said, that when he took over in 2014, in his first term, it was a 2 lakh limit when it comes to the zero tax as far as the salaried income goes. Now, what has changed in last 10 years, he explained in a beautiful manner. He said there were too many wounds in the economy and on the middle class. We tried to heal those wounds, and now this is the last treatment that we are giving. So indirectly what he was suggesting, that why we could not give this kind of relief earlier, he was giving an explanation also. So but slowly, step by step, how the income limit has increased budget by budget. Till last budget it was around 7.5 lakh rupees. Now it has increased up to 12 lakh, which is a massive increase.
Indeed.
So it shows two things. One, Indian economy is in a solid, the foundation are very strong. Secondly, now government in a position to leverage those strong foundation for taking a leap forward, and that's why government could pass on those benefits and now relying on the either savings or consumption by the middle class. This also shows, Mark, that the idea of middle class, the range, now we are talking about 12 lakh rupees per year, which is a relatively a massive income. It means in the very definition of being a middle class has changed now. So it also shows the way India's growing middle class and its aspirations and how the government is responding to it.
In fact, Prime Minister also, talked about the government living by the Constitution and its spirit, constitutional status, has been given to the OBC Commission. Those with the constitution in the pocket is what he was talking about. They had compelled Muslim women to live a life of troubles. Can you comment on this?
See, Mark,
here again the political
time
sarcasm.
and again this government and especially Prime Minister Modi has been questioned on whether he's following the constitution, and the accusations were made during 2024 Lok Sabha elections that its constitution will be changed if this government is returned to power, and that is why Prime Minister said that constitution is not just about carrying it in a pocket, or constitution is not just about the articles that are mentioned in it. It is about the spirit of the constitution, and spirit of the constitution lies in the we the people. So the overall message that Prime Minister was trying to give was, he gave a couple of examples when he said, I became Chief Minister in Gujarat, I compiled the speeches of all the governors, like President gives the joint address to the Parliament. In India, the state legislatures, governor gives the address. So he compiled the speeches of all the governors, irrespective of who was in power. It gave a complete picture of how India's policy thinking evolved. So he said that shows. Even he gave the example of PM museum. Where again sarcastically remarked that some people want to have museums only of their families. Now I want to have it for all the prime ministers and their contribution to independent India. So this collective spirit, where irrespective of party in power, certain decisions, certain consensus building takes place, and this we the people is reflected.
Mr. Ketkar, we are running short of time, so let me just put in one more question. The government's focus is on the double AI. You talked already about aspirations. Artificial intelligence and aspirational India is what the Prime Minister said. And here again, the political sarcasm, because the political opponents, he says, use the AI as an amusing term.
Oh yes, because there was a remark about using AI for caste census. Artificial intelligence and sovereign artificial intelligence, the way government has, specifically mentioned about the National AI Mission. Now, rupees 500 crore has been allocated specifically for, promoting research on it. And then the Center of Excellence has been created. Already 3, as the Finance Minister also talked about, various initiatives are already being taken. So when the world is actually now competing between OpenAI and DeepSeek, one led by the US, the other by China, India is not lagging behind. That was the message. And if we have to move forward in that direction, then aspirational India, the innovative India, the youth of India has to contribute in this process. And public-private partnership is going to actually make a huge difference when it comes to realizing our objectives, as far as having some our own AI platforms, which will give more autonomy and sovereignty when it comes to operations of AI.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Praful Ketkar. Thank you for joining us and enlightening us on this. Indeed, the Prime Minister did speak also about India's youth power. And now to all the latest news that we're going to get you from the Maha Kumbh, which is the largest gathering of humans anywhere on the planet. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the Maha Kumbh Mela 2025 in Prayagraj on Wednesday. He will take a holy dip at the Sangam and offer prayers to Ma Ganga. The Maha Kumbh 2025 is the world's largest spiritual and cultural gathering, attracting devotees from across the globe. The Maha Kumbh will continue until Maha Shivaratri on the 26th of February. In line with his commitment to promote and preserve India's spiritual and cultural heritage, Prime Minister has consistently taken proactive steps to enhance infrastructure and facilities at pilgrimage sites. Let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. A 15-year-old has been taken into custody on suspicion of killing a youngster of the same age during a stabbing at a school in Sheffield in the city of Northern England. The South Yorkshire Police, they are currently conducting an inquiry into this incident. Beneath an oil painting by the Renaissance maestro Titian from 1570, researchers in Cyprus have discovered a hidden portrait. At the exhibition, Titian's artwork and a depiction of a concealed picture are on display, and the exhibition runs till the 10th of March. The French cinema star Juliette Binoche is named as the jury president for the 2025 Cannes Film Festival. On Tuesday, the 70th Cannes Film Festival will take place from the 13th of May till the 24th of May. The annual Copenhagen Light Festival is back with multiple art light installations brightening up various locations across the city, including bridges, buildings and more. The Light Festival will run till the 23rd of this month. And back in India, a female cheetah, Veera, has given birth to 2 cubs at the Madhya Pradesh Kuno National Park on Tuesday. With the addition of these 2 cubs, the number of total cheetahs at the national park has now become 26. These are 12 adult cheetahs and 14 cubs. And still to come here on DD India NewsHour. Trump says there's a lot of interest in TikTok. OpenAI's Altman clinches a deal with South Korea's Kakao.
This week on Defense Dynamics, India strengthens its firepower. A 10,200 crore boost for Pinaka rockets. What does it mean for battlefield supremacy? From battlefields of Kargil to modern warfare. How India's Grad and Smirch rocket systems pack a punch. China builds a secret war command center 10 times the size of Pentagon. What's the Beijing's endgame? And Pakistan's internal crisis deepens. Political chaos, economic meltdown, and rising insurgency. How does it impact the regional security? Catch it all this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lin. The Bangladesh High Court has refused to grant bail to the former ISKCON leader Chinmoy Krishna Das Brahmachari and the Bangladesh Samilto Sanatan Jagran Jot spokesperson in a sedition case filed over alleged desecration of the national flag. The court did, however, issue a ruling requesting that the government provides an explanation within 2 weeks as to why Chinmoy Krishna Das should not be released on bail in this particular case. On November 25, Das was taken into custody by Dhaka, by the authorities at the Dhaka airport. This was on allegations of sedition. Since November 26 of last year, he has been incarcerated. A trade war between the US and its neighbors Canada and Mexico appears to be averted for now, but the sell-off on Monday shows just how vulnerable the global economy may be. Joining us with more on this is a reaction in Europe. The DW correspondent Chipondo Chimbelu is joining us from Berlin. Chipondo, just how prepared is the EU, for these potential tariffs?
Thanks for having me. Well, European leaders have said that they would retaliate if Trump were to impose tariffs on the bloc. Now, the EU is the US's 4th biggest trade partner, and US President Trump has been calling for the EU to buy more US goods. Now, at the end of 2023, the US goods trade deficit was 155.8 billion euros with the EU. Now, that's according to Eurostat data. But when it comes to services, the United States had a surplus of over $100 billion. Now, European leaders have been reportedly trying to prepare for any potential tariffs by drawing up lists of US products that they would target. But the real test will really be the EU's unity. Now, in the past, that has mainly depended on its two biggest economies, which are, of course, Germany and France. And right now, their political futures are uncertain. Later this month, Germans will be heading to the polls in an election that will determine the next government. And the French Prime Minister, meanwhile, may be facing a vote of confidence this week.
Chipundu, so which industries in Europe would be most vulnerable to the US tariffs?
Well, chemicals, vehicles, machinery, and other manufactured goods make up the bulk of EU exports to the US. And it is the auto industry that is the most vulnerable. We already saw that on Monday, even just with the threat of US tariffs against Canada and Mexico. Now, that's because European car makers have operations in both countries, which they use to manufacture cars for North America's biggest market, the United States. Now, sometimes car parts travel across the border several times during production, and tariffs would have, of course, cost the auto industry billions, especially in Mexico, where they do benefit from lower wages. And interestingly, the automaker that is most vulnerable to tariffs because of its operations in Mexico is Europe's biggest car maker, Volkswagen. And of course, Stellantis Tool, which owns Peugeot, is the second most exposed European car maker. Now, shares of both companies were down more than 4% in Monday trading.
Chipunda in Berlin, thanks very much for being with us. Now, Italy's data protection authority, the Garante, they have told DeepSeek to block its chatbot in Italy. They did so on Thursday. Now, what's happened is that this happened because the Chinese AI company didn't answer the regulator's question about its privacy. And the authority had asked DeepSeek to explain what personal data it collects, where it comes from, what it's used for, and the legal reasons for collecting it and whether it's stored in China. It's a pertinent question, in fact. And also, Australia, too, has banned DeepSeek from all government devices over concerns of security. US President Donald Trump said that there is a lot of interest in TikTok as his administration seeks to broker a sale, of the popular app. Now, Trump also signed an executive order for the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. It's going to happen next year, within the next year, in fact. And he says that it could potentially buy the short video app TikTok. So this short video platform, TikTok, briefly went offline ahead of a law requiring its Chinese parent company ByteDance to either sell the app or face a nationwide ban in the US. The law was set to take effect from the 19th of January. The OpenAI CEO Sam Altman announced a new partnership with South Korea's Kakao. This is to develop AI products, marking OpenAI's second major alliance in Asia this week. Following a recent collaboration with Japan's SoftBank, Altman is on an Asia tour. Kakao, known for its dominant messaging app Kakao Talk, it plans to integrate ChatGPT technology into its services. Altman emphasized Korea's strategic importance in AI growth due to its strong energy, semiconductor, and internet industries. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's get you the sports news. So women's participation in sports, it's been seeing a remarkable rise in India. The ongoing national games in Uttarakhand reflects this progress. Thousands of female athletes are competing, and the government support, increased awareness, and strong role models also have led to this transformation. Narayan Singh reports.
The 38th edition of National Games are underway in Uttarakhand, witnessing a significant rise in women's participation. Thousands of female athletes are competing across various sports, with the host state also having strong female representation. In the past decade, India has seen a remarkable surge in women's participation at global events like the Olympics and Asian Games. Athletes like PV Sindhu, Saina Nehwal, Marie Kom and Mirabai Chanu have achieved great success, inspiring the new generation.
The national games and the national championships of the different sports that are taking place, it also boosts a lot of participation of women in the country. Not only like it gives a platform to each and every state to represent in whatever best game that they play.
I feel it's really great that more women are trying to look forward, like trying to enter into sports, and they see it as a future and they can pursue it, and it's not just limited to some specific activities like becoming a lawyer or becoming anything for that matter, and sports gives you that edge.
This growth is driven by increased government and private sector support, along with rising awareness and role models. The Indian government has launched several initiatives to promote women in sports. The Khelo India scheme includes a dedicated women's program focusing on disciplines with lower female participation, achieving sports milestone by inspiring women through action. Trot Asmita portal, launched in August of 2023, has organized 766 competitions across 20 sports, engaging over 83,000 women athletes. These efforts are transforming the landscape of women's sports in India.
The rise of women in Indian sports is a reflection of the changing landscape of athletics in the country. With the increasing opportunities, strong government initiatives, and inspiring role models, female athletes are breaking barriers and redefining the success in sports. As participation continues to grow across all levels, from grassroots to international arenas, India is poised to become a global powerhouse in women's sports. With camera person Uttam, Narayan Singh, DD India, Dehradun.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.